Hello, everybody. It's Boxing Day in the UK. Hey, Shawnee, that's for you. Team Liverpool and teeny details on everybody else. This one's called Big Swings. It'll be short, brief, and bringing the usual Friday heat. This is Friday Fire and called Big Swings. Thank you all for coming. Hope you all had a nice Christmas day yesterday. And this is not financial advice. And the weather's cold. It's freezing out there, so I hope you're staying warm. And not financial advice. Stay warm. That is advice, that part. And of course, hello to Patreon. Thank you, Scooby-Doo. I literally took my very first steps into investing because of you and the Patreon fam. That community is pure rock fuel. Good. Well, I hope you had it was a bumpy year, unless you were heavy on AI, then everything was fine. Let's get into sentiment and signals. We still have that big bifurcation between stocks and crypto. Crypto sentiment is in the toilet, where it has been now for months. Back to extreme fear. We were 24 a few days ago on Tuesday and back to 20. People are just sick of it. However, stocks just went into the greed mode, which is interesting. Let's tackle Bitcoin and crypto first, see what's going on in the world. And Bitcoin right now, as I speak, is down 3.2% for the month of December, which is not cataclysmic. This chart says 3.51%, but it's actually gone up about $500 since I took this shot. Anyway, not cataclysmic. Are we going to break zero before the end of the year? I don't know. There's some things that are a little bit scary out there. GQ Trader, hello there. I saw you earlier in Discord. Now, let's look at one of the scary things. The long-term holders versus the short-term holder ratio hits a 3-year low. And this is distribution. That means people are not stacking, but there's kind of more selling than buying, and that's not good. And it doesn't imply an immediate trend reversal, but it does highlight the structural risk. And with short-term holders now controlling a larger share of circulating supply, they are more fickle to movements in price, emotional selling and liquidity shifts, whereas the long-term holders tend to hold unless they're taking lifestyle chips. But the short-term holders are very fickle. So if there is a big dip, they'll panic sell, and that could drive us down fast. So beware of that. Also, David believes, a little bit of positive news, we just went through that huge $6.1 billion release on notional options. A lot expired worthless, $6.1 billion. A lot of people believe the theory behind this is real simple. If the market makers, if the price of Bitcoin shot up above 90K, they'd lose $6.1 billion. A lot of people believe for the longest time, the market makers are keeping the lid on the price of Bitcoin so it wouldn't breach that level, so they wouldn't lose so much money. Now that that whole thing is expired, perhaps there's a chance that Bitcoin can breathe again and roll. But I don't think so. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. And right now, we're not seeing any money flowing in. No fun, as I keep saying. Let's look at the Bitcoin ETF flow on the monthly. Again, December's red. We had a nasty November, which was nearly as bad as the nasty January 2025. By the way, you're looking at a year here of charts. And typically, the good news you can pull from this is we only get 2 bad months in a row, and then a positive month. So January could be positive. We shall see. But this money needs to come in to Bitcoin for the price to go up. Without that, we're toast. Let's check in on Ethereum. ETF flows also almost like a mirror image of Bitcoin, down. The only person buying Ethereum is Tom Lee. Hopefully he gets his bonus by the end of the year. But that's not enough. He's not enough to keep Ethereum up either. And let's look at the Sol ETFs in the monthly. There's only 3 months of history, so bear that in mind. But at least the last 2 months have been very positive. They are not bleeding like Ethereum and Bitcoin. Hopefully, 2026 could be a surprise year because we had a very long bear market for alts in 2025. There we go. But there are some headwinds. Friday Fire. This guy, well, not this guy, but the U.S. government could shut down again on the 31st of January. Congress, of course, left. They enjoy their holidays. They don't like working every day like some of us. And there's no deal, not even a vote. No deal, no funding. And we know what happened last time the government shut down. I mean, what I mean by the title there just ended already. Governments are so useless. All of them. All of them. I paint with a broad brush here, but find me a government that runs properly. Maybe Nayib Bukele up and down in El Salvador. I'm not sure. But most of them are just complete waste of time. And they waste your money, or they commit a lot of fraud. As we found out in California, nearly $100 billion missing from an audit. Missing. Gone. Poof. Taxpayer dollars. Bye-bye. Where'd it go? I don't know. You know where it is? It's in the pocket of politicians. That's where it goes every single time. Everything is a grift. Anyway, I did warn you, it's spicy. Friday fire. But remember, if the US government shuts down, that really puts a dampener on liquidity, which puts downward pressure on crypto price. And we're going to spend the month of January worried about this government shutdown as just the same garbage all over again. But what are you going to do? And another thing to be concerned about for Bitcoin is this. This is the coin. Turning point in the Bitcoin price. You can see every time the yellow spikes up, it mean reverts. Everything mean reverts. And when it mean reverts, the price goes down. But there's a couple of things to notice that's a little bit different this time. Is the CDD has actually been quite high, quite a number of peaks, more frequently than normal, which tells me maybe the cycle dynamics are changed forever. We're not sure. But typically, if history does repeat, that could be a turning point in price. It could go down, but the price is already down. So maybe we don't know. Again, this is one of these times. Is this time different? Every time we've had a historical metric to compare Bitcoin against since January 2024, it's been different. So yes, I do believe the dynamics of Bitcoin have changed. We'll watch this carefully though. CDD. The CDD combined with the short-term holders that could panic sell on a big nasty dip. I don't know. Let's get into AI markets because that could help drive Bitcoin. And the macro piece I'll get to in a minute also could help drive Bitcoin. We'll get to that in a second. First of all, S&P 500 over the next 2 weeks. Today is the day, the 26th, again, Boxing Day. Let me just check on the S&P 500. It's important that it actually doesn't really matter. It's right. It's bang at zero return for the day, 69.31. It's not up. It's not down. We'll see what happens. But this is a piece of history here. And that is, if this is seasonally one of the most bullish days of the year, 81% of all December 26 see the S&P 500 rally. And the S&P is currently negative today. And every time the S&P 500 is negative on the 26th, it's up 16 out of 17 times 2 weeks later. But the other point is, even if it's down or it's up, it doesn't matter. 2 weeks after the 26th of December, the S&P 500 is up. So expect a little pop up until maybe nearly the middle of January. We shall see. It's good. Now, we had some big news yesterday with NVIDIA. Was it yesterday or Christmas Day? I don't know, the day before Christmas Eve. I'm not sure, but this was misreported by CNBC. They said it was an acquisition, but it's not. It's a peculiar deal. Now, after digging into it a little bit, this deal from NVIDIA is basically acquiring the leadership team of Groq. Not XAI Groq, but Groq, the company that makes kind of inference chips, big ones like NVIDIA. But they're very important for inference because remember, inference will be 1,000 times bigger than learning. But that whole leadership transition is going to go from the Groq team to NVIDIA to help them build and help make their data centers more effective. Some people call it executive poaching. I think its founder, Jonathan Ross, Sunny Madra, and a few others are going over. But either way, apparently, Groq didn't have very good financial health. They slashed their revenue outlook by 75% due to increased competition from NVIDIA. And then NVIDIA swoop in and buy their team for $20 billion. There's a lot of money. But anyway, we'll see what happens. And the valuation in September 2025 was only $6.9 billion. And NVIDIA spent 3 times that on the team. So it's a peculiar event in the world of AI, but 2025 was a very strange year for AI where we saw crazy deals made. Many of them will turn sour over time, including, as I've been saying for now, at least 6 to 9 months, as I don't think OpenAI is going to make it in its current structure. It's way too expensive, way too richly valued. They're not making enough money. And OpenAI is planning to advertise on their platform. And I guess maybe they're moving towards being more of a Google. Again, it's kind of weird what they're doing, but they have to do something to make money. And I do believe this OpenAI company and their very rich valuation and the amount pumped into them by companies like Oracle and all the Stargate talk could end in tears, as I've been saying. Gemini and Groq are already far superior as LLMs. We'll see if they can compete. I'm not sure. In addition, this chart is out of place. My apologies, but it's a Bitcoin volatility chart. The yellow line is the volatility index, and you can see it's down and quiet. We've never had such a quiet, unvolatile period in the history of Bitcoin. And it gets quieter and quieter. And this dovetails nicely into the whole "this time is different" narrative as well. Anyway, back to AI and money. This has been a wild year for wealth creation. There's so much to pull out of this list and talk about. I'll start with Bill Gates at the bottom, losing 26% of his worth in 2025, not 2026, excuse me. But the year-on-year change is interesting. If Gates had just held his Microsoft stock instead of investing in silly things like vaccines and stuff, he'd be worth over $200 billion. Instead, he diversified and lost. So remember, diversification is good if you go onto a faster horse. But selling your winning horse, not a good idea. And the Google boys, we have Larry and Sergey, they made out like bandits. Their bag went up 61% and 59% respectively. That is a truckload of cash those guys made out. What's that? 150 billion each or more. And Elon went up 49% in the year 2025 too, to 645 billion. But remember, I believe he'll have 3 of the top 10 companies on the planet in a couple of years. That'll be XAI, SpaceX, and Tesla, especially with the synergy between them. And Larry Ellison is another interesting one too, because there was a time in this year where Uncle Larry, was the richest man alive. His wealth went above 300 billion when Oracle popped on a big OpenAI deal, and some reports that they had a huge backlog of nearly $1 trillion in revenue. But now, Oracle stock has crashed 30% in Q4, if I recall, despite that huge backlog of revenue and lots of crazy things happening. Also, their debt is through the roof, and that could be the house of cards that brings all of the AI down. So there are bubbles in AI, no doubt about that. But don't be on the bubbly side. Be on the solid company side with good fundamentals. Think Tesla, think NVIDIA. They're the safe bets. That's how I'm playing. Now, a little bit of macro news. Again, it's Friday Fire. Bear that in mind. Google, Sergey and Larry. This is interesting. For the first time ever, Google adds a line on its profit and loss account for the EU fines, the European Commission fines. And in 2024, $6.3 billion of fines. 2025, $10.5 billion of fines. That's a lot of fines to me. I mean, if you look at other kind of expenses, it's like that's way more than they pay in income taxes in the United States. Way more. So the fines have become huge. And the fun story is, well, whether it's fun or not, it's kind of serious. But the EU has shifted from innovation to litigation. And I hope the EU moves back to innovation, but they need to get rid of the litigation and the regulation to thrive. Remember, this is a once in a lifetime, maybe once ever in the history of the world opportunity. And I want Europe to participate. And so I speak about them a lot. I don't like them being so far left behind. There needs to be a regime change over there because There's simply too much regulation. But I thought that what Google have is hilarious. Who saw that coming? And there's also bigger things happening between the different governments of the EU and the US. The EU is fining US companies, fining Elon Musk for freedom of speech and all that stuff. And the US, Marco Rubio, is sanctioning them because he calls the acts of Europe acts of extraterritorial censorship. And there are leaders now in France and Germany and Spain that have all criticized the move, naming it intimidation and coercion and stuff. But first of all, freedom of speech is very important. Second of all, freedom of government is very important too. So less regulation, the better. And I hope these two countries, these two regions will get along in the future. Now, another fun news, which is very important to crypto, by the way, and AI, driven by AI, everybody expects PMI to rise in 2026. Now, sometimes when everybody expects the same thing to happen, it doesn't happen. But we'll see. If all of that funding comes through for AI, it will drive PMI up, all the data center build out, etc., which will help crypto and Bitcoin. This is why we care. Always. Every single time PMI goes up, Bitcoin goes up. 2026 could be the year where that's changing. Rates are coming down. Money printing is back in gear. We just have to wait and see what happens. Either way, it'll be fun and exciting. And finishing this Friday with meme du jour. This is a funny little chart I saw on X. Silver, gold, and S&P 500 playing all their instruments, and crypto dead on the floor. But silver actually just made another new all-time high today. Crazy. It's up to like $76. It's more than tripled in 2 years. And most of the action happened in the last month. This is the craziest banana zone we've seen. Not in crypto, but in precious metals. So we definitely got the banana zone at last, but just for not the asset we expected. But eventually, if all the precious things are going up in value, the palladium, the titanium, the copper, the gold, the silver, Bitcoin, even though it's not a precious metal, it is a very precious hard asset. It's only a matter of time. I believe we just need to be patient. Get the manipulators out. Hope you enjoyed the show. Big thank you again, TD Tesla, K8, Sean D, Clint C1, GQ Trader, Happy Feet up there in Canada, and DBF 430 in Australia. Got the whole world represented. Take care. Happy Boxing Day. See you all Sunday for the Q&A. Have a good night.